girlfriend. How you like this hat? Fujifilm representative gave it to me. But that doesn't mean anything, because I definitely can't be swayed by free hats. It is an awesome looking hat, though, isn't it? Since none of the rest of the YouTube photography channels seem to have the intellectual wherewithal and wit to define what is a professional camera, I thought I'd lay down the law. And if you protest this video, I'd love to see you try to do it. So let's actually define, because everybody loves to talk about whether a camera is professional or not. Let's employ some hardcore Platonic logic, wisdom, common sense, and intelligence in defining the term professional camera. This should actually be really, really easy. I made a really short list here. This is my writings, okay, not anybody else. It took me like 3 minutes to come up with this list. So, what is it? And everybody loves to talk about this. So, well, that camera's not professional. Well, sure, my camera's professional. Well, that camera's not. Well, hold on a minute here. Hold on a minute. And of course, there are not extremely sharp lines that define what a professional. Let's stop beating around the bush, okay? Let's get down to the nitty-gritty. What's a professional camera? If we think about it logically and remove ourselves from whatever it is our most beloved camera is, like me, it'd be Fujifilm/Nikon, or doesn't matter what you like or what you hate, okay? There's no professional cameras from Sony. No, I'm just kidding. What is a professional camera? Professional camera is one that does not stutter as it's pushed to any limit of expression as desired by the photographer. Let's define that list with a subset, right? A non-professional camera throws up roadblocks. I assume you know what I mean by roadblocks, right? It's kind of like you can't get a silk purse out of a sow's ear. You can't turn a pile of poo into a diamond. You know, it throws up roadblocks. In other words, you can't get there from here. If you'll say, well, any camera's professional, it only depends on the person that's using it. I said, well, that's not true. You know, that's mostly true, but you still can't enter the Daytona 500 in a pickup truck and have any chance in hell of, well, it's never going to happen, right? So there is something there that is gear-based. And of course, any of these modern cameras, at least most of them, if it's worth anything, even a Nikon D3000, D5000 series camera, you could throw it into manual mode and of course get professional results. But we're not talking about professional output here. We're talking about something that defines a professional camera. So let's do that. But let's define now the non-professional camera. A non-professional camera, as I just said, throws up roadblocks for many things, but the things that you're most familiar with: sports, action, wildlife. They have issues with buffer, i.e. buffer depth, autofocus speed, autofocus tracking, lack of professional glass. And this, of course, is the ecosystem. So it's not specifically the camera, but since you can't do any photography with just a damn camera, right? So, well, here we go. We got a camera. That's wonderful. What am I going to do with it? I have no glass for it, right? Not referring to the specific camera. So that's part of the ecosystem. So that's not specifically as pertains to the camera. Lack of professional glass. Lack of a nuanced, customizable interface. In other words, you're not able to customize the camera to do whatever it is, your specific workflow. You know, you might just be a photojournalist. You might just be this or that. Lack of durability. I think we know what that means. Lack of extreme condition, reliability, lack of data, and by the way, data redundancy is God, okay? This is the reason why I have hundreds of hard drives, and even though everybody hates optical discs, and I'm not talking about like DVDs you buy at Best Buy, I'm talking about hardcore archival optical discs. And there's several varieties. There's verbatim, there's M-disc, which actually have a mineralized layer, which are guaranteed for 1,000 years. I'm talking about the 1 or 2 gigabytes of data that you have and I have and everybody has. It's like, ain't no way that can be lost. It's like the most important data in the world, right? I'm talking about that. So data redundancy is God. So it's a lack of data redundancy. That would mean, of course, a single card slot. Lack of customization, such as buttons and vertical grip, lack of significant battery life to go on a long... Of course, you could always stick a pocket full of batteries in your pocket, so people will actually argue on those finer nuances. So when someone says a D3000 and a D5000 series camera is not professional, and people will pose, I can get professional results out of a D5000. You say, yeah, you can, but you're missing the damn point. I actually like wearing this hat. It keeps these lights out of my eyeballs. You're missing the point. When we're talking about, when we say, like, for example, Nikon D3000 and D5000 series cameras not professional, what is both meant and implied is that those cameras have, as per their nature, their design, countless roadblocks. I'm just using the word roadblocks, kind of appropriate, because that's exactly what they are, roadblocks, such that any working professional with those particular cameras would never ever put up with that crap. Like a photojournalist would never put up with the shitty buffer on a D3000, D5000 series camera. Wildlife photographer, no. No, they just would not. They wouldn't put up with the shit. Those are the roadblocks that are in place. They don't have sufficient buffer. They don't have vertical grips. They don't have the reliability. They don't have the autofocus speed. They don't have the autofocus tracking. They don't have the durability. They don't have the nuanced, customizable interface, because what a working photojournalist needs is not what a wildlife photographer needs. Now, you can obviously, now if you're shooting constipated turtles, okay, or tabletop macro product photography, you know, you got your camera here on a tripod, and you're tethering, for example, you could be tethering. You're taking a picture of a product on a tabletop. Any old D5000 or D3000 series camera, of course, will have professional results. Well, let's talk about professional output versus professional input. Yeah? Yeah? Right? You know the difference between like a superfine Lamborghini and like a crappy, I don't know. Name a crappy car. It has to be an American-made car, because those are the crappy cars. Like a Chevy Focus, or was it a Ford Focus? What's the difference? Well, one is speed and performance. Well, that's all true. You ever talk about man-machine integration, where like when you, and I've only done this a couple times, you ever sat down in like a really, really, really expensive hot rod, and it like molds to your ass, and like the car just like interfaces with you, and just like the slightest little nuance, you know, where man and machine become one? Yeah, forgetting about the performance issues, you know, the big-ass engine, you know, how fast it is from 0 to 100 miles per hour, and I'm talking about that. I'm talking about the interfaceability, how you're actually able to forget the car, and it responds to you. You almost don't even have to do anything. Some of the best cars in the world, the professional drivers, and God knows, I mean, I wouldn't know anything about this. I've never driven a Lambo. I've sat in them a couple times. I've ridden in them a couple times. That they actually almost respond by thinking. People actually doing stuff, obviously still have to do stuff to the car to get it to drive, but the interface is just, wow. Oh my God, amazing. So these are the things of like a D3000, D5000 series, for example, that no professional photographer would ever put up with that shit. And there's all these there's these idiotic YouTube videos, and they all kind of have this title on them. Well, sure, D5000, D5300, D55 is professional. Look at these beautiful pictures I got out of this. You get people like, yep, you're right. Yeah, you don't need to spend. That's not the point. Of course, you could stick the camera in manual mode. It's not about the output. That's not what defines a professional camera, is the output. It is a little bit, obviously so. You want to go back in time and shoot like a 4-megapixel Canon from back in 2003 or 2004. Professional camera is not defined by a professional output. What percentage would that be, accuracy-wise? As a generalized statement, that's about 90-95%. You know, the whole encapsulation. As a truism statement, it's not about the output that defines the professionality of the camera. A professional camera is defined by the seamless user input, not output, user input that has as few or no roadblocks. What do you think actually defines? I don't care if it's a Canon X1D or a Nikon D5 or Nikon D850. Yeah. Now, if I had a D5000 here versus a Nikon D5 versus a Nikon D8, so this camera is $6,000, this camera is $500. And I got lots and lots of lighting, and I'm doing tabletop product photography. I mean, can you get really, really awesome shots? Output, right? The raw file on the computer. Can you get really awesome output from the D5000 series camera as opposed to the Nikon D? Well, of course you can. Sure, well that proves there's bullshit about professional cameras is bullshit. No, it doesn't. Because when people talk about a professional camera, they're not talking about the output. People think that, and they think when you say professional, people think, well, that's the output. Like, here we go, is this camera professional? I don't know, let's take out the card slot. Let's take out the card. I need to grow my fingernails longer so I can get my cards out. And stick it in the computer here and see if the out... This is not what defines a professional camera. It's not what lands here. It's this. It's the interface. It's the buffer, the glass, the customizable interface, the durability, the data redundancy. I think this camera, by the way, the X-T30, here's a perfect example. It's just absolutely the cat's ass. People say, well, you know, that camera's only got one card slot. You know, you're pissing all over the Nikon Z6 and Z7 because it's only got one card slot. There's actually many reasons why I was dumping on those cameras. Crappy autofocus, no vertical grip capability, and one card slot. So that's only got one card. Yeah, but I also never said this camera was for like a paid working job. Like, you know, I got a paid job down at, and by the way, I got a paid job at the end of this week. It's a small retail store that needs some shots done. For a magazine. Great little gig. We're actually going to work partly in money and partly in product trade-off. In other words, half my payment is going to be in their products and the other half is going to be in payment. I would never show up with this. Could you get the job done? Yeah, of course you could. With this? Yeah. I mean, this is the same sensor and same image output as the X-T3. So what is the difference between like an X-T3 being a professional working camera and the X-T30? No vertical grip, there's no redundancy. Do you really have to worry about a buffer that much? No. Is the line becoming kind of blurred? Blurred? Excuse me, I almost said blurred. Blurred. Yes, that's true. A professional camera is a device that provides the highest confidence, provided, of course, you know how to use the damn camera. That's an issue with a lot of you. In nailing that split-second shot, which will, of course, never come again. Let's take a perfect analogy. You know, you could take a cross-eyed, drunken idiot, right? He can mow your grass, right? Is the same as a professional mower, right? You know, the guys that have the business, I'm a professional mower, I'm going to show up and mow your grass. And the drunken idiot's like, you know, your grass is really long, I can mow it too. I charge half as much as that schmuck. You know, they'll both mow your yard, but the difference is that you can count on, you know, the mower, the professional mower, the guy with the business card that's not going to show up drunk. You can't count on the drunken idiot to show up on time, to do a good job. It's, you know, not fall over himself because he's mowing while drunk. You know, he might chop his toes off and then sue your ass because, you know like people that trip on your property and then they sue you for tripping on your property. You can't trust somebody like that. If someone's putting bacon on the table, they need seamless interface. A professional camera is, in short, defined by the interface, the input interface, not the output. Okay? People always think that. This hat's making my head hot. I need to turn the temperature down in this house. So, unlike the rest of these YouTube channels that do stuff on photography, but can't define what a professional camera is, I actually did correctly, accurately, and intelligently define what the hell a professional camera is. It's not the output. There's all these things that define a professional camera. I said a non-professional camera throws up... Can't speak today. I've had too much caffeine. A non-professional camera throws up a lot of roadblocks for sports, action, wildlife, buffer, autofocus speed, tracking, lack of pro glass, lack of customizable interface, lack of durability, lack of reliability, lack of data redundancy. That's why no working professional would use a Nikon Z6, Z7. And of course I had people fight with me on, you know, well, so-and-so's a professional. He charges $1 zillion for his weddings and he uses it. It's like that guy's a Nikon ambassador. He's literally a puppet for Nikon. Of course he's using a Z6 and a Z7. That's not an example. Someone is a corporate puppet. You know, that is, by the way, a really ignorant thing to pull on people. You'll do is you'll take a famous photographer that makes a ton of money, then you'll give him a less than stellar camera, basically a crappy camera that no pro would really buy. Here, push this camera. We're having a hard time selling this single card slot piece of crap. This first generation iteration. It's brilliant, isn't it? That's what we call marketing and advertising, which is always a lie.
Well, so-and-so's a professional expert photographer, and he's using that crappy camera, so it can't be that bad.
It's like that guy's a Nikon ambassador. He is literally a puppet for Nikon. Nikon! So I have, unlike everybody else on YouTube, actually defined what the hell a professional camera is and what the hell a professional camera is not. If you want to debate this fact with me, go ahead and try, but you're not going to succeed in doing so. It's not about the output, it's about the input, and several other things. So when someone says, that's a professional camera, that's not, it's like, let's accurately set the parameter box for what is and is not a professional camera. And I accurately just did so. Peace out, Girl Scout. Now I'm going to do it for real. Mic drop.